welcome to the Jam Yearbook. I'm Matt.
And I'm Jim. Today, we're going to bring you all of the best music we found exploring new music during the month of October 2023.
We hope everyone had a safe Halloween and got plenty of their favorite candy. I have to have Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I don't know about you, Jim, but that is my go-to. Jim and I, we found plenty of tricks and treats in October. It wasn't very pleasant for the most part.
I'm a taste the rainbow guy.
Oh, you're a Skittles dude. Oh,
I am, yeah.
Okay, Marshawn. I get you. But speaking of treats, Jim, what month is 9 months prior to October?
Why, that would be February, Matt.
That's right. A whole lot of loving went down around Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it did. No kidding. Birthday celebrations ran far and wide in October. So we're going to go through birthdays like we do at the beginning of each show and give a big shout out happy birthday to Sting, Gwen Stefani, Chris Lowe of the Pet Shop Boys, Brian Johnson, Kevin Cronin, John Mellencamp, Bruno Mars, and Jackson Brown.
Oh, we're not done yet. We also wish happy birthdays to David Lee Roth, Paul Simon, Usher, John Oscar Mayer Wiener, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Doja Cat, and Steve Miller.
And wait, there's more. Because we had, he'd be proud of me for saying it this way, Weird Al, Cardi B, Drake, Katy Perry, Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran, Frank Ocean, Timothy B. Schmidt, and Vanilla Ice. Matt, I'm kind of sorry that I didn't turn that into an Animaniacs song because I really wanted to. I just didn't take the time to. We had singing Gwen Stefani, Chris Lowe, right? But maybe next time around, if we get that many, I'll put the time into it. We also had some album anniversaries. There were some albums that were celebrating huge milestones in October. 50 years ago in 1973, we had Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Steve Miller, The Joker, and The Who with their groundbreaking album Quadrophenia.
And a couple of 80s classics are turning 40. Culture Club's Color by Numbers and Cyndi Lauper's She's So Unusual. And to make people younger than us feel a little old, 30 years ago, Pearl Jam released their second album, Versus.
Don't call me granddaughter.
Yeah, that's about enough of that song. But keeping in the vein of what's old, we have some older artists who are still around putting out new music.
I think if you were over 75 and considered a rock legend, there must have been some kind of requirement to release new music in October.
Yeah, it was probably part of their social security check. But some true legends, they're still doing what they love. Ringo Starr, Roger Waters, and the Rolling Stones all released albums. And at least Ringo, he was a little more merciful. It was only a 4-song EP, but hey, it's something from the man.
I actually have a lot of respect for Ringo because I looked into his latest string of releases and they've all been EPs. And he did this on purpose because that's what the kids are doing. So good on you, Ringo.
That's Ringo.
I like that. And I'm even going to chuck Van Morrison in here. He had a single in September. We never talked about it. And there's another one here in October. His album comes out November 3rd. So I might be a little premature. That's fine. Maybe we won't talk about it. Maybe we will, but it fits into today's discussion.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of times I accuse myself of not being smart enough to enjoy Van Morrison's music. There's a lot of depth in there I have trouble connecting with.
Out of the two new singles that I've heard, it's very throwback, like the kind of old, brown-eyed girl, twisty, shouty kind of Van Morrison, but the lyrics just are a little Swiss cheese.
Yeah. I don't know the general opinion of Ringo Starr's music. I've only recently paid attention to what he's done, which is surprisingly quite a lot. He's been releasing stuff fairly regularly. I knew he had his touring all-star band, but I didn't really pay attention to how many solo albums he's released. I really like Rewind Forward. Ringo is a very endearing person, and he seems like a class act all the way, so it's hard to find fault with him. I've enjoyed more of his recent stuff than Paul's.
Yeah, I can't disrespect Ringo and what he brings musically to the world. He is consistent. You know exactly what you're getting when you put him on. And his band in the studio is incredible. He has Joe Walsh, Steve Lukather, Ben Mott Trench, and even Paul McCartney wrote one of the songs and played bass on one of the tracks on the album. So come on, he puts together a very solid team. All of these guys we have spoken about in prior jam shows.
Okay, let's move on. Roger
Mhm.
Waters, what's the deal? Was it necessary to reimagine Dark Side of the Moon?
I can't tell if this is a cash grab or an ego massage. Roger, you're one hell of a songwriter, but all of this sounded better when Pink Floyd recorded it together. You're not above your band. He's not going to ever hear me say that, but I needed to get those
Yeah,
words out.
I hear you.
I think this was just a pet project, and he always wanted to hear it this way. It's his music, so he can do what he wants with it.
Yeah, and it could have just been a big middle finger to the rest of the group as well, or
Possibly.
one particular member. Um, and part of your argument is why I don't want to trash it. Whatever you think of the guy, he had a major role in making Pink Floyd's music and making that band what it turned out to be. Maybe
Mhm.
if Dark Side wasn't such a classic, it would be easier to take. But he did go all Leonard Cohen on a few songs.
Yeah.
It was a little rough. We also hit on the Stones last month when they had just a couple songs out, but now we got the album. What are your thoughts?
Well, I do think you liked Angry a little more than I did. You talked about it in the last
Yeah, it
episode. For
grew
me, it
on
was
me.
just kind of, it was okay. I thought Sweet Sounds of Heaven was the next coming of the Stones, though. I loved it on the first listen. Uh, then I played the album when it came out, and Matt, it was not an easy listen for me. This is not classic Stones. It was way too overproduced. There was a lot of cutting and pasting and
Mm,
a lot of wavelength maneuvering on Keith's guitars and stuff going on. And for some reason, I made a comment to you that Mick just sounds like he's shouting everything. And you said back to me, Mick always is shouting.
yeah,
But
he's
I
not
think,
much of a singer on most of the
no,
songs,
but
right? He's kind of a
but I
talk
think
singer. Yeah.
he is, but I think where they laid that in the mix and how they made it sound, it was just a little too rough for me. Sweet Sounds of Heaven was the 11th song on the album. By the time I got to it, listening to the whole thing, I didn't care
Uh,
anymore. The magic was
yeah.
gone.
Would it be interesting if you had heard, if you put it on random and that song was
Mhm.
like, within the first three, if that would have changed your opinion on it? Because sometimes sequencing can matter.
Oh, it does matter. I think they should not have put that song at the end of the album. It doesn't make any sense to me. But enough about the old guys. What about the not quite as old as these guys? The other artists that were releasing new material?
We talked about an upcoming album, an early release single in September, but I really like Rick Astley's new album, which is saying a lot because that was not my thing when he was the top 10 hit machine.
Yeah, I loved him in the 80s, but that's my penance to carry. We're gonna sound like a couple of old guys to kids, but it is really good.
It is.
He wrote most of the songs on the back of a tour bus in 1922 going around the US with the New Kids on the Block and En Vogue. I read somewhere that he sat in the back of the bus and just got reconnected with guitar playing and wrote these songs. So I respect that immensely. He wound up becoming the King of Glastonbury this year, where he debuted a song from it. Rick Astley is a talented, humble, and very seemingly Rick Astley is a talented, humble, and very seemingly kind man. So it's great to see him have this kind of career renaissance. However, we're not going to stop there. We also found pop punk was not going to leave us anytime soon in October,
Oh,
Matt.
yeah. Is Blink 182 to blame for the stagnation of pop punk?
Oh,
That genre needs Green Day to go old school and drop another dookie on everyone.
I think all Green Day's done over the years recently is drop dookies, but
Yeah.
not the same
Yeah,
kind.
well, because they have adhered to the pop punk mold.
They have. And I agree with you that I wish this would happen, but it's not going to.
Nope.
I think pop punk could just take a rest for a decade at least, and then I might welcome it back.
Yeah, in Blink, they did what they always do. It's not horrible. You've just heard this 100 times a month. They named their new album One More Time. See, even they know. More
Mm-hmm.
importantly, they just told every other band that it's okay to not grow. Just keep copying us. It'll be okay. Right. But not every band has Travis Barker. If it wasn't for
Mm-hmm.
him, I'd really rip these guys. He's amazing.
He is great. Travis can pound those skins as good as any drummer out there. He has to be considered in a conversation if you're going to talk about rock's greatest drummers. There was a video I saw on Facebook a few weeks back when I was just doom scrolling the reels, and it was a woman probably in her mid 60s sitting behind a drum kit explaining all of the rhythmic sequences that Travis Barker plays. And then she was playing as a 60-year-old woman. It was amazing to watch, but her explaining the style and play and what he's playing in the songs really made me realize that there's a lot of thought that goes into it. He's not just hitting hard, he's hitting hard, and he has a lot of talent. He's writing drum music for that band.
Mhm.
And I'll give this to that band. The new album sounds like Blink-182 because they're all back together. Tom DeLonge came back. And even though the music all sounds the same and 10 other bands have sounded like them since he's been gone, it was a moment almost that was refreshing for me, because if you'd heard Blink-182 over the past 10 years, well, he's been out with Angels and Airwaves, it hasn't been quite the same. So I can understand why those diehard fans of Blink, who might not be into everything pop punk, were really excited to have him back. Imagine if every band after them hadn't been brought forth by labels just to sound like them as copycats. This new album is still better than everything since this last Blink lineup was together in this genre.
That's a good point. In my opinion, it wouldn't be so harsh if there wasn't such a cash in by so many other bands.
Yeah.
Because Dawkins, 80s hair band, they came out with a new record, and even though it doesn't stray from what they've done in the past, I found it more palatable, because pop punk has just been so diluted over the last 15 years, 20 years. That pop punk herd didn't get thinned out like hair metal did. And
No.
it just, pop punk is just as present, maybe even more so than it ever was. It's like a self-sustaining machine, like it's not ever going to quit. But moving on, Duff McKagan is somebody that yeah, that's right, Duff McKagan. We've been talking about Guns N' Roses a little bit lately.
We have, yeah.
I had his album in my queue for about 2 or 3 weeks. I had no interest in listening because, and that made me know I wasn't going to give it a fair chance. And I really wanted to, because I got a lot of respect for Duff. Overcoming addiction is not easy, and he seems like a genuinely good person.
Yeah, he does.
So I really wanted to give that album an honest chance. It took a couple songs to fully give in. Holy Water is the song that did it. That is a really cool song. And this album is not anywhere near Guns N' Roses. It's not GNR Light. It's its own thing. Duff McKagan did a good job.
Yeah. I think if people are going into this looking for the GNR sound, they would be disappointed. If you need a Guns N' Roses sound, you're better off listening to Slash's solo stuff, because his sound is still Guns N' Roses sound. I think Duff sounds a little more like early 90s alternative. The songwriter stuff, though, outside the realm of grunge and say something like Buffalo Tom, I gotta say, a lot of bass players have made worse solo albums. This one is worth the curiosity if you want to check it out.
Yep. And I'm not calling it punk either, but you can hear his love of punk music in it.
Yeah, you can.
And we're still into this whole old is new, so pardon us, but Judas Priest, they got a new album coming out in March. It's still a little bit of a ways away, but we got a taste of it this month.
We might start getting a trickling of singles. I believe the first song released, Panic Attack, sounds like a good start.
Yeah, it harkens back to their 80s sound a little bit. It's not full turbo, but there is a synth sound that, if you're familiar with turbo, as soon as you hear like the first minute or so of the song, you go, oh, okay, yeah, I like this. It really made my brain reminisce. We often mention how amazed we are when older singers can still get it done.
Yep.
Huge shout out to Rob Halford. Could you imagine? He's in his 70s. Could you imagine your grandfather pulling that off? It's so hard to believe he hasn't burned out that voice, but he can still hit those notes. It's so cool.
It is great. There was also new music from Blues Traveler, Matt.
Well, way to bring
Your
us
favorite
down.
band.
Way to bring us down.
What was your take?
I doubt I'll listen to the whole Blues Traveler album.
We'll have some kind of bet where the loser has to listen to the whole album.
Oh, geez. And report back.
Yes.
And report back. Make that positive. I'm never going to listen to this album because I'll make sure I do not lose a bet. I've lived this long hearing maybe 3 of their songs to begin with. They are not my thing, but they had a national spotlight for a brief period of time. The song Qualified has Tom Jones written all over it. It's not a great song, but I think Tom Jones could have made it great because it's Tom Jones.
Yeah, Tom Jones can almost make Mary Had a Little Lamb sound like a pop hit.
Goddamn right.
Yeah, he's great. But yeah, Qualified, I couldn't finish the song. Literally, it was, well, I've had enough of that. And I tapped out at about 2:30, 2:45.
Oh, you wanted more harmonica?
I almost made it through the song, but it was actually the guitar solo that pissed me off. It's not good. And they've had over 30 years to get better. How do you still play that badly?
Yeah, because it really wasn't much of a guitar solo at all.
No.
It's like they knew it was bad, so they really buried it in the mix.
Yes.
But you could still pick it out. They never made any sense to me. They are a bar band, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it just seems like they overreached somehow, some way. They managed to, grab that ring. They had the ring to grab. But I seem to remember some connection between them and the Spin Doctors when they were all the rage, which may have gotten them in the door to begin with.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't own any of their stuff back in the day, but I got to be honest with you, Matt. I didn't hate them. I needed palatable radio music when I was driving old folks around in a van, and I heard it 20 times a day, and it beat me into submission the way music does sometimes. But I haven't been sentimental about it. I've always been a big fan of harmonica. I love it. And John Popper's great at it, but he was a little too much like Mariah Carey, always having to show how he could hit that note in every song, that high note, whatever it is, the Mariah Carey
I know what
sound.
you mean. Yeah, you don't have to sell me on your point. I get it, because that was the sell. Blues Traveler has been a huge struggle for me as well, but people would always say, wait, just wait, the harmonica, it's coming. I respect the talent, but the songs aren't for me. Maybe for Christmas this year, I'll get you our harmonica jacket and you can just start collecting, or a vest, just a vest.
Yeah, the vest. I think they just fit into the alternative rock for people who like jam bands crowd. Dave Matthews, Rusted Root, Spin Doctors, Blues Traveler. That sounds like a nightmare concert for many people, but I know some. Yeah, I know some that would absolutely love it.
Yeah, there always has to be an outlet for music that is safe. It's not going to offend. It's not going to stand out in the crowd, right? It's just going to be there, all reliable. It has its audience. It's just not for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like one of those bands where, and you probably have these too, where you're trying too hard to like them. They're out of the box from what I might tell myself I would normally listen to. Hey, Matt, you need to broaden your horizons. Let's give this a chance. But in reality, if they were a local band and I was drunk at a bar watching them, I'd probably buy a CD, wake up the next morning and be kind of pissed at myself. And Jim, I know you haven't listened to the whole album because I haven't. But I did listen to a second song, and this will probably piss you off. It was a cover of Waterfalls.
The TLC song?
The TLC song.
Oh.
Don't go chasing that waterfall, Jim. If you lose a bet with me, you are listening to that fucking song.
I haven't heard it, and I am going to avoid it like the plague.
Ooh.
All right, Matt. So I think Waterfalls would be on my take it to the bin list had I heard it. Bin.
One of these days I will make you
rubbish.
listen.
Yeah. I apologize to people who listen to this show between America and the UK back and forth, because this is one of those segments of the show where I question, do I call this taking the rubbish out, taking the garbage out, taking the bin out? Because
people say rubbish here. So yeah, I think they'll get it.
Okay. We're taking out the rubbish. We're taking out the trash. That's what we're going to say. This is where we take out the trash. And the song I brought this week was Paris Hilton, like my Paris Hilton and Steve Aoki.
Oh, why? Is Paris Hilton still a thing? Is she trying
That's
to be, or did someone have an idea? Oh, I got to get this off my chest. This is horrible. It's terrible. I feel dumber for having heard it. May God have mercy on their souls. I can't believe we're even talking about this, Jim. I really can't.
You probably hated me for sending you the link because I didn't warn you ahead of time. I just said you're going to hate me for this and send you the link to the song.
But luckily or unluckily, curiosity did get the better of me when I saw it. I'm like, we do have some nightmare things that we need to add into the show just to poke fun and have fun at it. And this is gosh darn terrible, Jim. This doesn't even warrant swear words.
I probably shouldn't have even brought it up. Do I really have to warn people to not listen to the new Paris Hilton song?
Maybe out of morbid curiosity, people will.
If I do, they're probably not the right people for this podcast. No offense. Even recognizing the existence of this song was probably a bad idea.
Yeah. Let's just move on. How about that? I can't imagine that getting any radio airplay at all. So if you do hear this song, it's your fault. Shame on you, because it was on purpose.
So instead, I am going to warn people about Jizz Jazz. Yes, folks. I just said Jizz Jazz.
Why did you wait till I took a drink to say that?
You may think this is a Flight of the Conchords song, but it's not.
Mac DeMarco, Simply Paradise.
Yeah, I was wondering.
What a treasure.
If he was trying to sound like Flight of the Conchords, or was he just spoofing on his own?
It was so Conchords. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's Canadian for one, so I don't know how you're trying to sound like Jermaine if you're Canadian. But I will say, Mac DeMarco, you know me, I'm gonna go deep dive and do some research, and it was pretty funny. I'll have to come down on the side of spoofing. At the very least, he's fucking with us completely. This album, One Wayne G, has a running time of, and I'm not stuttering here, 523 minutes, 20 seconds. And the titles all look like generic, like just a generic save title of a date.
I thought that was a typo.
I did too.
523 minutes.
I thought you were talking about the song titles when I saw it on Spotify. I'm like, wait, this can't be true. Yeah. And there's only 9 songs with air quotes here singing. I'm going completely on research because I am not listening to nearly 9 hours of music to count how much he sings. And one of the songs, 2018, 09, 13, it's just gibberish, literally singing ba ba da ba da ba 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 da ba da ba ba. And the Police did that a few times, but I love Masako Tango. I love that because it's got a vibe to it. These are clearly unfinished wank sessions.
I am now so happy that I didn't go down that rabbit hole as far as you did. I sent you the song. So I apologize for piquing your curiosity.
Oh, I want to laugh, but also be as angry as listening to that Rivers Cuomo demo album a few years ago. I mean, what is this shit? For fuck's sake. I have a folder of song ideas in GarageBand on my Mac here. Right. I'm looking at you, looking through this. I guess I could release all that and say, hey, check out my album. I'm a joker myself, so I have respect for his game. But he does save himself from self-labeling his music as Jizz Jazz. But this is self-jizzing, right?
Yeah. If he makes Jizz Jazz, then over here, it definitely means he's a wanker. That's it.
Jizz Jazz. I don't even know how he would come up with that.
No.
Unfortunately, though, my curiosity gets the better of me, and I got to go down these rabbit holes. Sometimes it pays off, but after today, I don't suspect I'll ever hear or think of that name again. So, Jim, get us out of this death spiral. We said there would be tricks, and we've had enough of those.
Now it's time for the treats.
Please.
You noted earlier this week, and when we were chatting with each other, that the show starts out old and gets younger.
Yeah.
So
I like that. It's Benjamin Button.
It is. Now is the time we talk about the new stuff we found, the great new music that we'll probably end up adding to our playlist. And we want you to go out and look up and check out for yourself, because we think there might be something worthy in there for you. First is this, I'll air quotes here, Talk. It's a band. It's not really a band. It's one guy, Nicholas DeRocha from Ottawa, Canada. And we each found songs from him separately and shared them over the past couple of weeks. The music was really a product of COVID-19 and lockdown. He had moved back in with his parents and wrote the song Runaway to Mars. It was already released last year as a single and hit #1 on the Billboard Adult Alternative charts. His album is called Lord of the Flies and Birds and Bees, which I guess you might not know the birds and bees if you're stuck with Lords of the Flies.
Yeah.
I will admit I completely judged what this was going to sound like based upon the Lord of the Rings / D&D imagery. But I liked the album. I put it on. I listened to the whole thing. The songwriting is good and it's consistent. And it was really almost Bowie-esque in places.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, just look at the album cover. That antler crown and the fur cape in a portrait of the bad guy in Ghostbusters. That portrait, it kind of gave me vibes of that as well. This album is more than worthy of a listen. This is probably my favorite album of the month. Okay. I like the structure, especially with the backing vocals. Mm-hmm. And there are a few songs where the drums have character. They're adding depth to the songs instead of just keeping time. And he sells the singing big time. He really goes for it. So the song I found was History. And I have that on my own personal, 60-hour playlist. But I find that when I go to turn that playlist on, I kind of search for that song and start there.
Yeah, it's all good. It's really good.
Yep. And then we found Parrotfish. They have one song in particular that stuck with me. It's called Hitchhiking. And it so gives off Red Hot Chili Pepper vibes in the verse. But then when it comes to the chorus, they go all Weezer. It was a very strange blend for me, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. They have a great EP here in October. As much as I recommend people go and listen to Bleachers last month, for me this month, it's Parrotfish. They dip into rock, pop, funk, alternative, just the way that I like it. I also got a little Jimmy World out of it. I recommend going to YouTube. It is like the Foo Fighters made their music videos. They're a lot of fun to watch. I'm definitely going to keep them on my radar because if they come around live, they're one of those bands I have to go and see. And then there was another artist that I'd never heard of before in my life that I shared with you. It was a really fun song by Hannah Gray called Who Done It? This song's hilarious. It's like a murder mystery song. I love a song with a story. And not only does this song have a great 90s throwback grunge sound, but the lyrics and vocal melody have that kind of playfulness of what might be expected from Lily Allen. So that was a lot of fun.
One of the things I liked about some of this new music that we're finding, there is a fun quality to it.
It's come back around to that, hasn't it?
It has. And that's one thing that I've kind of learned from you over the course of this show is that, yeah, you know what? Music, there is a place for heavy music, thoughtful music, but really, man, you want to bounce. You want to have fun.
The fun stuff is what you sing along in the car to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can have fight songs that get you through, but fight songs don't always have to be stuck in the muck.
No,
right?
No.
And then we had Psychedelic Porn Crumpets.
Say that again.
Psychedelic Porn Crumpets.
Bad names are hard.
They really are, Danko Jones. But guess where they're from, Jim?
Oh,
take a guess. Come on. We're going back to Australia. Come on.
I thought so.
Yeah. Australia, folks. We've been following this trend for a few months now. This is the first I've heard of them. I do hear similarities with King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, which are also from Australia. They like to describe themselves as an energetic mess of color and tone. And that can really sum up King Giz as well. This is something that, along with a band called Pottery that we found a few months ago and King Giz, it's something I can reach for when I get so tired of hearing the same old song map without having to resort to prog.
I think a future jam show is going to be what the hell is going on in Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love this. To me, their song Dilemma Us from Evil had a blend of Flaming Lips and Beatles influence. I really loved it. I hear those sounds still finding a fresh way into new music. And it's great that younger bands are able to do this.
Yes, we could easily have an Australia show almost any
Yeah.
month now. It's
Mhm.
amazing what we're finding coming out of there.
Yep.
Also from Australia, though, is Pliny. He is for the Steve Vai and Joe Satriani crowd. He had a song, Ember. It completely caught me off guard. It was a right place, right time scenario. Instrumentals for me have to be parsed out, but on a rainy day, this was my jam, 100%. Sometimes these pieces can run into prog territory, but Ember was tight. And I mean what I said. If you're like into Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, that kind of sound, you will dig Plenty.
I think there was even a little Eric Johnson
Yeah,
in there. But why not be influenced by that because of his style and what he does?
yeah.
And it's kind of nice to see it hasn't lost its place.
Yep. And sometimes the hardest part of writing music is coming up with lyrics.
Mhm.
So if you don't have that in you, hey, let the guitar rock it out.
Let the guitar speak for you.
Yeah.
All right. So coming back from Australia to here to the UK, we have Biba Doobie, and I don't know if I'm saying this right or not, nor would you, but Laufey is how I'm going to pronounce it.
Yeah, I think that's
Laufey.
I think that's correct.
Laufey. Matt, I have been musically crushing on Biba Doobie for a good year now.
Yes.
Yes, but I have passed over quite a few of her recent songs in these shows because they didn't really do anything for me. Her original sound was cool at the start and then something just kind of slowed down. But this song is really classy. It's a throwback. It's a 1950s crooner sound and it almost really sounds like a missing James Bond theme.
Every time you say Biba Doobie, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but you sound like Dean Martin or a drunk Sinatra. It made me want to hear her team up with Steven Sanchez. I will say that because I completely still love that album from last month.
I do too. And I think that'd be a great duet if we could ever hear that. But now it sounds like we've been hanging out with the Rack Pat because, you've just said Biba Doobie and
Biba Doobie Doo.
yeah, Biba Doobie Doo, Doobie
Biba Doobie
Doobie.
Doobie Doo.
Maybe we should make a warm-up exercise before we do the show to say Biba Doobie, Biba Doobie, Biba Doobie, Biba.
Oh, I like that. You start it, then I have to repeat it, then I can come
Yeah.
up with one and you have to repeat it.
All
And
right, yeah.
whoever fucks up first drinks.
We have Biba. Oh, hey, it ends with a doobie. So
Oh,
that explains everything for me.
there we go. There we go. And then we have the Honey Sisters, Dirty Honey and Black Honey. Black Honey continues a trend we're going to keep hearing for a long time, and it's a huge 90s influence in a lot of this new music. They do a good job of blending another name we've already mentioned, Weezer, but they also had a little bit of a touch of grunge. Their song Lemonade, I liked it, but if this is their idea of a strong lead single, I don't know what that says for the rest of the album. Because that's me. I'm an album guy. I'll give
Mhm.
it a fair shake when it comes out. I usually find gold in B-sides anyways.
There was something beyond that 90s grunge throwback here, though. And it would be the older sister of Black Honey, Dirty Honey, because they sound like they came out of the 80s. Their song Coming Home sounds like the missing puzzle piece of acoustic hair rock circa 1988, 1990. Every dude, Matt, you and I knew back in those days with an acoustic would have been playing it to a group of girls all walking around with Bon Jovi hairdos.
Oh, I'll give you that. But it sounds like you went a little autobiographical with that zinger there, Jim. Doesn't everyone have a song about coming home or going home or not finding the way back home?
Yeah, they do, but it sounds like Mr. Big and Tesla had a baby.
Oh, totally. Totally. I listened to some of their older songs and they're pretty good. It's some of the songs, it's like a Led Zeppelin Aerosmith mashup. And they've opened up for Guns N' Roses, Kiss, and Rival Sons.
Yep.
It's amazing that we've never heard of them before, and they've co-headlined tours with Mammoth WVH. But it's the first time we're hearing about them.
Yeah, I checked them out before. Back when we were doing the Jam Show by the Years, I came across their earlier albums a couple of times. And I kind of liked them, but there was something that also held me back a little bit because I was worried that I was crossing into that Buck Cherry
Oh,
territory.
holy shit. I literally have a list of bands right here that they gave me vibes of. And it's typically like a vocal vibe I'll get. Aside from
Yeah.
Buck Cherry, here's some more laughs coming. I got sometimes some Slaughter and Jackal, maybe a little bit more obscure, but Tora, and Trickster too.
Oh boy.
There's just like a vocal quality you
Oh
get.
yeah.
Oh boy, we did a great job of selling that album.
Yeah, we
I don't
did.
know if anybody's going to listen to it now.
I don't blame them if they don't after that. So I've been looking forward to the new Mountain Goats album for a couple of months. I picked one of their songs for a previous episode of Jam, and I had some anticipation for this. I knew it was coming when we started doing this and new music. I probably back in August started looking forward in the months of new music that would be coming along, so I was ready to look for it. I'm going to admit it kind of let me down, not in a horrible way, but it sounds like the perfect coffee house album.
Yeah.
And I will lend them this. There are some really rich layers of strings and horns set inside these indie style songs. The sound of this album is very rich.
Yes. And the singing does lend my ear to point towards They Might Be Giants. It brings it to mind. They've crafted some really cool songs. Those layers you mentioned, they are great. I love the writing. And they are a little bit of a niche band to begin with, but the energy on the whole album, they sound old.
Yeah.
Right? Well, not old. They sound mature. It's like, hey, we can do this, and they can. They are talented. I don't think there's anything that's going to blow you away, but you won't hate them either. It's one of those bands that if they come on at a dinner party or whatever you're out to eat, and it keeps playing over and over, you're going to start wondering, who the hell is this? I kind of like this.
Yeah. Good assessment. Matt, something happened, a miracle in October.
Whoa.
I found country music.
Oh, you found country. You found country this time. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Who would have thought I would add a duet with Craig Morgan and Jelly Roll onto the playlist, especially after the rant.
Jelly Roll, really?
Really, though. Jelly Roll just sing some harmony and backup. I don't normally go back and listen to modern country twice, and I'm not going to proclaim myself to be a new fan, but this had a great old school feel. I was really comfortable listening to this EP, and I think fans of country music really would embrace this. I think they will, because we didn't know this, but Craig Morgan has already had massive albums in the country music world and plays Grand Ole Opry. But hey, if you think I'm an idiot and you've been waiting for me to talk about country music, okay, here I am. I like this Craig Morgan album, everybody. It was good.
And isn't it amazing, seemingly, how popular and huge this guy's career probably has been? Because, as you said, he has released so many albums. It's very weird that I don't recall this guy's name.
Yeah, and I want to warn people, if you know Craig Morgan, I'm not talking about anything new. All of these songs have actually been released on previous albums. So Craig Morgan was in the National Guard for, I think it was 17 years. And he had to leave for some reason. I'm not quite sure the full story, but this EP is called Re-Enlisted because I want to say he's 59 years old and he passed the physical and he's gone back in to the National Guard so that he can complete his 20-year service to the National Guard. And he went back to these classic hits of his that we don't know. And they're all duets with other big country stars. So somebody out there who loves country music, who actually listens to this show, is like, yeah, you dummy, I know about all this. But if you're curious at all about country and you don't know about Craig Morgan, I got to say, this is a good starting point. It was for me.
Yes, we fully admit our ignorance when it comes to country music. Hands down,
not from pre-1983.
Yeah, what would have been an 83 that you would have liked?
Maybe
Was that
Alabama
oh,
backwards.
or Exile Kiss You All Over?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But the closest to finding country music for me was Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters. I never even knew he had one solo album out, let alone this one. And like Duff McKagan earlier, not sounding like Guns N' Roses, this sounds even less like the Foo Fighters. Lost at Sea is a cool alt country, but it rocks as well. I tried to find other artists to relate to when I'm talking about because I hope it gives somebody a frame of reference, but this did not trigger anything in my brain, which probably made it stand out.
It really bothered me too, because I do the same thing. I want to tell somebody, oh, you'll like this because it sounds like this.
Well, yeah,
And
because that's what Spotify or any streaming service does. Hey, if you're fans of Biba Doobie, you might like Dooba Dooby Dooba Doo.
I hear all kinds of familiar sounds, but I'm not able to place it.
No, it's just good influences on his palette.
It is. Some of it kind of sounds like early 80s pop country crossover music. It's kind of what we just talked about, pre
Yeah.
1983. But his vocal lies in the mix in a really unique way that makes it different from all of that. So, yeah, this was a really cool find. I had no clue it was out there until you brought it onto the page this week. So, thank you.
And we have some lazy bastards out there bringing back King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. We talked about them.
These guys do nothing.
Never anything. They only had like 5 albums last year, but I'll give them a break. They only came out with 2 this year so far. Who knows what they have in the can ready to come out. But they went down a road I can't follow. I admire their drive to experiment. Any band experiment. They don't feel driven to be boxed in, but the Silver Cord was not for me. They ventured into an electronic territory that doesn't do it for me at all. I still dig them for what they are and they strive to do, just not this time. They still have plenty of music out there I love, just not this one.
Yeah, they've been touring recently, and I saw they came around the UK. I'm kind of glad I didn't catch them touring this album because it might have still been great because their live performances are always seemingly magical when I watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, and who knows what they would have done. I don't know if they set out with like, hey, we're gonna do this album, this show.
That's true.
And I can't imagine having you've seen their catalog. It's huge, right? In a relatively short period of time they have to plan out their concerts to rehearse because I don't know how you keep all of that music straight in your head.
No, you write it and you go and you tour it probably.
Yeah.
That's what I expect.
Hey, Jim, get ready to mute my mic.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Okay.
This could be
I'm
dangerous
ready.
How
How do I reach through Zoom?
I don't know. You point at me. I'll hover my finger and you hit my pointer and you point at me when you need me to mute. Because I'm not sure what's going to trigger you with this. But it could either be saying the name Mark Tremonti or saying he has a Christmas album out.
I know you're not going to profess your secret love for Christmas music right now, but since you did tell me that Creed was going to have a concert cruise next year, and then I sent you a poster showing that they were going on a summer tour, I actually put like, "Oh, your favorite bands are going," as a joke.
Yeah, 3 circles of hell all at once.
Yeah, let's hear it, Matt. You love Creed, right? That's what you're going to hear me.
Okay, hold on. Hear me out. Don't put words in my mouth here.
With arms wide open, here we go.
You son of a bitch. Okay, but hold on. Let me lay it down here. If you only listen to it long enough to hear him sing, you will do a double take. These are big band tunes, and he pulls it off vocally. And come to find out, he put out a cover album of Frank Sinatra songs last year. I'm not going to say amazed, but I was definitely like, holy shit, I didn't think he had this in him. I was incredibly surprised. I'm not rushing out to get a Creed tramp stamp. I was just taken aback. That's all
I don't
I'm
want to see
saying.
it if you do. I don't want to see it if you do. I don't want to know. You don't have to tell me. I'm not going to imagine it. Okay.
That's going to be like a knuckle tattoo, except
Look, we're 50 years old. That's a lot of shaving in that area to get that done now.
I'll have to put the C on my thumb though.
I can't knock his talent. Creed dumped Scott Stapp, added Miles Kennedy, and became Walter Bridge. They're not horrible for their genre, but along the way, Tremonti became highly respected as one of the greatest guitar players in the world. He was named the greatest guitarist of the year for 3 consecutive years by Guitar World. And in 2011, he was listed in Total Guitar Magazine as the 4th greatest heavy metal guitar player of all time. I'm sure that really angers you.
It kind of does.
It
kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, that really believe in what he plays. And that's what matters. So kudos for you for checking this out, because I would have seen that name and passed right over. I would have gone right by it.
Well, here's the thing. I saw the name. I didn't pay attention to the album title, and I just copied and pasted it into Spotify. And I was like ready to click. I'm like, oh shit, that's a Christmas album. I'm like, well, I'm already here. I've already done this much work. Let's just click. And I'm like, holy crap, this is big band style. I dug it. Well, not the Christmas music.
That's fine. I will make it my Thanksgiving Day cooking music.
Right after Alice's Restaurant.
Right after Alice's Restaurant. Exactly.
So, Jim, overall, October was a little scary. There were more downs than ups. But hopefully this isn't a trend that's going into the end of the year. We may have been spoiled by September.
I was looking at it, and it seems that there's a consensus that the best music of this time of year does come out in September, October, because of university, colleges, all going back. I have a feeling it's going to be a little downhill through November and December.
Yes.
If you think about it and think about all the years we did through Jam, there were not a lot of albums in December that came out.
Oh no, it was like literally like half the amount of releases of like a September.
Yeah. We promise you, everybody, we will not tell you all about Christmas albums from people. Mark Tremonti, cool, but we are not going to do the show of December and talk about all the good. You know who else did a Christmas album?
Wow, you just took away a huge prank from my arsenal, Jim.
That's fine. You fire away. Away.
Okay, we're at the end now. So what's next, you ask? How many times have you been listening to a song, you space out a little bit, you come back to and realize the same fucking song is still playing? It's like driving down the road. You're just like, drive. And then you ask yourself, oh shit, how did I get here?
That is a very important question. And with the right amount of drugs, we might be able to answer that.
We don't do drugs. We just drink copious amounts of beer.
We do. And these long songs go by a lot faster when you do that.
Yeah. Or, and sometimes there's short songs that are still too long.
Oh, there are definitely categories that count as the world's longest short songs as well. So it's a very important question. How long should a song be? How many parts repeat themselves over to a point that you realize it's beaten its way into your head for far too long? And we are going into November, and you just brought up Alice's Restaurant. I do. I put on Alice's Restaurant every year. It's a very long song. I think on vinyl, it takes up the whole side of one LP. And I don't even know that the time length right now as we're talking about it, but
it's a story.
It is. And we'll get into that and why some are acceptable and why some are not. So yes, what is up with songs that overplay themselves? What's up with songs that fit into that category and we don't care about it? And what songs are short and still feel like an eternity to get through?
Hopefully people don't feel the same way about this show. We hope we don't outlive our welcome.
No. And yeah, we probably could have been a little funnier in the middle. Then that would have helped.
Well, that's when it comes back to us being, you know what, if we didn't like something, let's just rip it.
That's what we're good at.
Yes.
All right, Matt, it's your turn to wrap it up this week.
Yes, it is. So anyways, we hope everybody is recovering from September. Hopefully you found a lot of great music. And leading into October and November, keep your ears open. Do a little bit of exploring along with us. And if you find something that you want to expose us to, hit us up on our Facebook page. But until next time, we say goodbye from the Jam Yearbook.
Yes, we will. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for listening. Peace, love, and podcasts.